New York City. A metropolis that never sleeps, where dreams are made and broken in the blink of an eye, a pulsating heart of humanity. Towers scraped the sky, streets throbbed with life. The city was a living, breathing entity, full of energy and ambition. But beneath the dazzling surface, darkness festered. In the shadows, unseen forces played their sinister games. St. Helena's Hospital stood as a beacon in the urban jungle, a place where hope was kindled and lives were saved. Its worn steps had witnessed countless tales of hope and despair, each step a silent witness to the struggles and triumphs of humanity. Inside, Dr. Lara Nur fought tirelessly. Her dedication was unwavering, her spirit unbreakable. She was an angel in blue scrubs, a guardian of life, battling against the odds every single day. Dr. Nur lived for the oath, the sacred promise she made to protect and heal, the one she swore to uphold. It was her guiding light, her moral compass. Every shift was a battle against the odds. The emergency room was a war zone, and she was on the front lines. Every saved life, a victory against the encroaching shadows. Each patient she helped was a testament to her resolve. But the enemy wasn't always illness. Sometimes it was greed, a greed that threatened to undermine everything she stood for. A different kind of evil lurked in the city's underbelly. It was insidious, hiding in plain sight. It wore suits and hid behind corporate logos. It was the face of corporate greed, masked by a veneer of respectability. It thrived on denying the vulnerable. Profits were prioritized over people, and lives were treated as mere numbers. This evil had a name: Titan Health Insurance, a corporation that epitomized the worst of the healthcare system. Dr. Nur knew their tactics all too well. She had seen the damage they caused, the lives they ruined. They delayed, they denied, they manipulated the system to their advantage. They played with human lives for profit. Their greed knew no bounds, and their actions had real, devastating consequences. A cold fury simmered within her. She couldn't stand by and watch any longer. The city's cries for help echoed in her ears. She couldn't ignore them. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her shoulders. She wouldn't. Not anymore. Dr. Lara Nur was ready to fight back, to stand up against the greed and corruption that plagued her city. Lara Nur was a study in contrasts. By day, she was a beacon of empathy. Her touch was gentle. Her eyes held unwavering compassion. But when the city's shadows grew long, a transformation took place. The weight of injustice fueled her. She became Guardian, a silent protector, a whisper in the night. Guardian was more than a persona. It was a promise, a vow to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Her sleek black suit provided anonymity. It allowed her to move like a phantom through the concrete jungle. Her skills were honed, her purpose resolute. The city was her canvas. Rooftops became her vantage points, alleys, her silent pathways. She was a force of nature, unseen, unstoppable. Lara Nur might have been bound by the Hippocratic Oath, but Guardian answered to a higher calling. The city's cry for justice was her only command. Maria Gonzalez, a kind face etched with worry, a single mother clinging to hope. Her daughter, Esperanza, lay dying. The diagnosis? A rare heart condition. The cure? A costly surgery. The obstacle? Titan Health Insurance. Dr. Nur had witnessed this scenario countless times. The despair in Maria's eyes was a punch to the gut. The callous rejection letter from Titan felt like a brand. It marked another victim in their ruthless game. Pre-existing condition. 2 words that condemned a child to death. Rage simmered in Dr. Nur's chest. This wasn't healthcare, it was murder. Titan wasn't a company, it was a cancer. And she, the scalpel, she vowed to expose them, to bring them down. For Maria, for Esperanza, for every life crushed under the weight of their greed. This time, Titan had gone too far. This time, they would face the Guardian. The flickering neon sign of a nearby bar cast an eerie glow on the alleyway, painting the walls with a ghostly light. Dr. Nur, concealed in the shadows, felt the familiar surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins. The night was her ally, the darkness her cloak. Gone was the compassionate doctor who once healed with a gentle touch and a kind word. In her place stood Guardian, a figure of unwavering resolve and fierce determination, ready to confront the injustices of the world. Her movements were fluid, her eyes hardened steel, reflecting the countless battles she had fought and the ones yet to come. She slipped into a nearby parking garage, her footsteps silent on the concrete, each step a testament to her stealth and precision. Reaching her motorcycle, she ran a gloved hand along its sleek frame, feeling the power and freedom it promised. This machine, a symbol of rebellion and freedom, was her trusted steed in her solitary crusade against the forces of corruption. Guardian pulled on her helmet, the faceplate reflecting the city lights with a cold intensity, masking her identity but not her purpose. Tonight, she wasn't just fighting for one life. She was fighting for justice, for those who had no voice. She was fighting for the soul of a city held hostage by corporate greed, a city that had forgotten the meaning of compassion. Tonight, Titan Health Insurance would face a reckoning, a confrontation long overdue. The engine roared to life, shattering the silence of the night, a clarion call to those who dared to stand in her way. Guardian sped off into the urban jungle, a silent guardian on a mission of vengeance, her heart set on justice and her mind focused on the task ahead. Section 5, Into the Lion's Den. This is where the story takes a darker turn, into the heart of the corporate empire. Titan Tower, a monument to corporate arrogance. It stood tall, a symbol of unchecked power and greed. Its glass facade gleamed under the moonlight, reflecting the cold, indifferent beauty of the night. It was a beacon of wealth, a shining example of the disparity that plagued the city, a stark contrast to the suffering it inflicted. The opulence of Titan Tower was a cruel reminder of the inequality that festered below. Guardian saw it for what it truly was, a fortress of greed. She knew the pain it caused, the lives it destroyed, and tonight she would breach its walls. With a heart full of resolve, she began her ascent. She scaled the side of the building with practiced ease. Her fingers found holds in the smallest of crevices. Years of training had honed her agility. Every muscle in her body moved with purpose. Each movement was precise, calculated. She was a master of her craft, a shadow in the night. Her black suit blended seamlessly with the night, rendering her invisible. She was a ghost, unseen and unheard. Reaching the rooftop, she paused, her breath misting in the cool air. She took a moment to gather her thoughts. Below, the city sprawled, a tapestry of light and shadow. It was a beautiful, yet tragic sight. From this vantage point, Guardian felt a surge of determination. She was ready to face whatever lay ahead. She was a phantom, a whisper of defiance against the corporate giant. Her mission was clear. Tonight she would strike at the heart of the beast. She would bring justice to those who had been wronged. The rooftop access door yielded to her touch. She slipped inside, her heart pounding with anticipation. Guardian slipped inside, disappearing into the bowels of the beast. The night was hers and she was ready to fight. The air inside Titan Tower was sterile. It reeked of ambition and deceit. Guardian moved silently through the darkened hallways. Security cameras swiveled, oblivious to her presence. Her destination, the server room, the heart of the beast. She found it at the end of a long, featureless corridor. The only sound was the hum of servers, processing data that equaled human lives. Guardian's fingers danced across her custom-built device. This was her domain, the digital battlefield. Lines of code scrolled down the screen. Firewalls crumbled before her digital assault. This wasn't just hacking, it was surgical precision. Every keystroke was a scalpel, dissecting the layers of lies that protected Titan's dirty secrets. Time seemed to stand still. The only sound was her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. Then she found it, the smoking gun. The file was labeled Project Hope. The irony wasn't lost on Guardian. It contained detailed records of Titan's systematic denial of claims, cold calculations, profit margins prioritized over human lives. It was the evidence she needed. Suddenly, a noise. Footsteps approaching. Two security guards, their faces illuminated by the hallway light. Guardian reacted instantly. She slipped into the shadows, her body a weapon honed by years of training. The guards entered the server room, their conversation a low murmur. They were unsuspecting, complacent, easy prey. The first guard hit the ground with a thud. The second barely had time to react before Guardian disarmed him. Her movements were a blur, a dance of shadows. She was judge, jury, and executioner. But her only sentence was exposure. The evidence was secure. It was time to go. The next morning, the city awoke to a bombshell. News channels buzzed with the breaking story. Titan Health Insurance exposed. Their fraudulent practices laid bare for the world to see. Public outrage was swift and merciless. Lawsuits piled up, investigations were launched, and then, silence. Guardian vanished. Her work was done, but her impact was undeniable. The scandal sent shockwaves through the healthcare industry. Politicians scrambled, reforms were promised. The people, for once, had a voice. In the quiet of her apartment, Lara Nur watched the city react. A tired smile touched her lips. It was a small victory in a much larger battle, but it was a start. The city had a guardian, and she would be watching, always. Life at St. Helena's Hospital went on, but something had shifted. A sense of hope, however fragile, permeated the air. Patients like Maria Gonzalez and Esperanza were finally getting the treatment they deserved. Dr. Nur continued her work. Her touch was still gentle. Her eyes, though weary, still held the same unwavering compassion. She carried the weight of her double life with quiet strength. The city had changed. It had glimpsed the darkness within its heart, but also the potential for good. The fight was far from over. But for now, there was a glimmer of hope on the horizon. The Guardian may have retreated into the shadows, but her legacy lived on. It whispered on the wind, a promise of justice for those who needed it most. And in the heart of a city grappling with its demons, that promise was enough.